Which of these two companies sounds like a better investment? Company A is revolutionizing the future of mobility, building a global supercharging network, manufactures autonomous vehicles, develops humanoid robots, and is launching satellites into space. The CEO is a cultural icon. The stock is covered by every financial media outlet every single day, and it has one of the largest retail investor communities in the entire world. Company B processes credit card transactions, and really, that's it. It does not manufacture anything. It does not own any of the cards in your wallet. It just sits in the middle of every transaction between a buyer and a seller and collects a small fee. It's profoundly boring. It's reliably predictable, yet it has compounded at extraordinary returns for decades while building one of the most powerful economic moats on Earth. Of course, Company B is Visa, and it is exactly the kind of business I want to own and for a very long time without any real anxiety. Today, I want to make the case for boring businesses and why they consistently outperform their exciting counterparts. What is it that makes them so structurally advantaged? And how do you identify them before the market prices in their compounding power? Welcome to the Quality Investor. There's a well-documented phenomenon in markets that I think of as the excitement premium. When a business captures the collective imagination, it's covered breathlessly. It has a fanatical customer base, and everyone is talking about how it's going to change the world. Well, the market prices in a significant portion of that future success today. But before we get into it, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, helps us grow, and you can stay on top of all the quality businesses in the market. If you didn't pick up what I put down in the intro, Company A is Tesla. I just recently exited my entire position in Tesla. I owned it since 2023 when it dipped into the 100s, and I held on for the volatile ride of a lifetime. In the end, it was just too speculative, and while I believe Tesla is a great business, the stock just did not fit the ethos of my portfolio, the quality investor. There is a flaw with these kinds of stocks. If you buy an exciting business at a price that already reflects a significant amount of its expected growth, you need that growth to not only materialize, but to exceed expectations just to generate a satisfactory return. You see, you already paid for that good news. That is the excitement premium. But the only way to generate alpha from that position is if the actual outcome is even better than the market anticipated. And that's an incredibly high bar. I had already 2x'd my money, and it was time to put my capital to more reliable use. Tesla has made a lot of promises, and I don't doubt Musk's ability to fulfill those promises, but they're still promises, not results. Boring businesses have the opposite problem, the type of problem I'm happy to have. A boring business tends to be underappreciated, under-discussed, and priced with far more skepticism than its fundamentals warrant. A patient investor can frequently buy a superior business when those inevitable dips happen, and it reap the rewards without the roller coaster volatility of those flashier but fundamentally weaker businesses. The irony here is that the businesses that are least interesting to talk about are often the best to own, specifically because nobody wants to talk about them. Let me describe what I actually mean when I say boring, because the term is by no means a pejorative. There are a specific set of business characteristics that tend to produce exceptional long-term compounding. Characteristic number 1, predictable, recurring revenue. Boring businesses typically charge for something people use repeatedly. It could be a subscription, a transaction fee, a data license, or some recurring service. They don't need to sell you something dramatic to generate revenue. They just need existing customers to keep doing what they're already doing. Visa processes transactions every time someone pays for anything. MSCI charges asset managers an annual license fee to use its indices. Costco charges members an annual fee to shop there. None of these are glamorous. All of them generate predictable cash flows that compound beautifully over time. Characteristic number 2, high switching costs. The best boring businesses are ones where customers don't leave because leaving is genuinely painful. MSCI's index data is embedded in trillions of dollars of assets. If a fund manager wanted to switch to a different index provider, they would need to rebalance the entire fund, notify all of their clients, and potentially trigger a massive tax event. The annual index license fee is trivially small relative to those switching costs. That's pricing power with essentially no churn. Characteristic 3, asset-light business models that generate high returns on capital. Visa, Mastercard, and MSCI don't need to build factories, maintain massive inventories, or make large capital expenditures to grow. They've built the infrastructure and now they collect fees on top of it. Visa and Mastercard have their networks. MSCI has their indices. Every additional dollar of revenue costs them relatively little to generate, giving them massive operating leverage. This is why their free cash flow margins are extraordinary and why their returns on invested capital consistently reach 30, 40, sometimes 50%. The last characteristic 4, is a sort of a Warren Buffett test. He once said, if a newspaper was going to write about you or your company, would it be favorable? This was in the context of reputation management. The twist on it is if a creator would make a video about, say, Costco, would it be interesting? Would people click on it? Would it generate discussion? If the answer is no, there's simply nothing to talk about because the business just keeps selling bulk groceries to members. And that's a green flag. I used Costco because they are my worst performing videos. I stopped making Costco videos altogether. The absence of drama is itself the sign of a durable, well-run operation. But I'll expand on those aforementioned businesses anyways, just some quick examples that demonstrate these characteristics in reality. Costco. By every normal definition, Costco is a boring business. It's a membership warehouse retailer. It sells bulk toilet paper and enormous quantities of chicken. Its store layouts look the same everywhere. The business model has not fundamentally changed in decades. And yet, Costco has compounded at roughly 18% per year over the last decade. The reason is simple. Its membership model generates recurring high renewal rate revenue. Its scale gives it purchasing power no competitor can match, not even Walmart, and its culture of offering the best value to its members creates genuine loyalty that most businesses can only dream of. Visa and Mastercard. This is one of the most dominant duopolies on the planet. These two companies process the majority of global card transactions and have done so for decades. And the best part, which many people don't seem to realize for some reason, is they don't actually issue credit or charge interest. The banks do. They just take their small fee on every transaction. As global commerce grew, digital payments grew, and international travel expanded, their revenue grew with almost no corresponding increase in capital requirements or credit risk. Both have compounded at extraordinary rates for decades while doing something that sounds impossibly simple. They will continue to do so since a majority of the world's transactions are still in cash. MSCI. Asset managers pay MSCI for the right to use indices as the benchmark for their funds. Trillions of dollars of assets are linked to MSCI indices worldwide. And because those assets are benchmarked to MSCI, the index fees are non-negotiable in any practical sense. The asset manager can't switch without devastating consequences. MSCI sits at the center of the global investment industry, earns recurring fees on an enormous asset base, and does this with a tiny workforce and minimal capital requirements. Notice what all of these have in common. None of them require you to believe in a transformational future vision. They're already winning. They've won for decades, and they will almost certainly keep winning because the structural advantages they've built are extraordinarily difficult to replicate. The most dangerous word in investing is exciting. Exciting businesses attract capital, attention, and premium valuations. This often happens before the business has proven it can generate sustained free cash flow. Boring businesses attract none of these things, which means they're frequently available at reasonable prices, owned by patient investors, smoothing the volatility that frightens most investors and can be left alone to compound for decades. Now, I'm not saying exciting businesses can never be great investments. Some of them are. But the bar for making money in an exciting business is much higher because you're often buying a story rather than a track record. A boring business with exceptional economics and strong competitive moats gives you a much shorter path from analysis to conviction, and the numbers speak for themselves. The next time you're evaluating a potential investment, ask yourself, would this business make a good story for a podcast? If the answer is yes, be a little bit more skeptical. Do a bit more due diligence. If the answer is no, if it's just a steady, predictable, cash-generating machine that everyone takes for granted, it might be worth a closer look.
Thank you for watching today's video. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and happy investing.